I didn't set out to be the other woman. No girl grows up dreaming of stealing glances in darkened restaurants or receiving midnight calls from a man whose ring finger is already claimed. But life has a funny way of pulling you into situations you never thought possible. I wasn't like those women in the movies, the ones who fall into the arms of a married man because they're lonely or desperate. No, for me, it was different. It was the thrill of it all. The forbidden fruit. The exhilarating power I felt knowing I could have a piece of someone who was supposed to be untouchable. It was dangerous. And I loved every second of it. But before all of this, before I became Akua the other woman, I was just Akua, a girl from a quiet village where the pace of life was slow, and traditions were everything. My parents were simple people. My father, a carpenter, was known for his craftsmanship. My mother, on the other hand, was the backbone of our home. She raised me and my two brothers with the utmost care and discipline. We weren't wealthy, but we had enough. Enough to get by, enough to make sure that we could go to school, and enough love to fill our home, even when times were tough. My parents made sure to instill in us values of honesty, hard work, and above all, respect. And for the most part, I followed those values. Growing up, I was the girl everyone expected to succeed. I was smart and driven, with dreams of becoming a lawyer. In school, I was the top of my class, always the one with her hand up, always the one pushing herself to do more. Teachers loved me, and my friends admired me. My parents were proud. They used to say that I was destined for greatness. That nothing could stop me. But in life, things don't always go as planned. When I left the village for university, everything changed. Suddenly, I was in the city, vibrant, alive, filled with opportunities and temptations. The city was nothing like the small world I had known. It had its own rhythm, and if you didn't keep up, it would swallow you whole. But I thrived in it. I loved the independence, the freedom. For the first time in my life, I felt truly alive. I made new friends, I explored new places, and I met people who came from worlds so different from mine. People who didn't follow the same rules I had grown up with. And it was in this new world that I began to lose sight of who I was. At first, it was innocent. I was still the girl who worked hard, still focused on my studies, still aiming for a future as a lawyer. But the city changed me in ways I didn't notice at the time. I started to crave attention, more than just the academic recognition I had grown used to. I started dressing differently, acting more confidently, and before I knew it, the attention I was getting wasn't just from my peers but from older men, married men. That's when it all began. Cojo was the first. He was charming, older, and successful, the kind of man who commanded attention when he walked into a room. I met him at an art gallery one evening. He approached me, and we started talking about the paintings on display. Before I knew it, we were having drinks, and by the end of the night, I was intoxicated, not by the wine, but by him. I knew from the beginning he was married. He didn't hide it. In fact, he was quite open about it. But there was something in the way he looked at me that made me feel like I was different. Like I had something his wife didn't. I was young, vibrant, and carefree. And Cojo? He was my first taste of the excitement that comes with danger. With Cojo, I learned how easy it was to become addicted to the attention. He made me feel special, like I was his escape from the mundane reality of his marriage. We started seeing each other regularly, always in secret. And the more we met, the more I wanted. Not him, just the thrill. I wasn't in love with Cojo. I didn't want him for myself. I just loved the idea of being someone's secret, someone's forbidden desire. Cojo wasn't the last. There were others. After him, there was Kofi, another married man, another secret rendezvous. And then Nana. And Kwame. With each one, I felt more empowered. I was the one calling the shots. I had the control. They were coming to me, leaving their wives behind, begging for my attention. I was the center of their world, even if only for a few stolen hours. I would tell myself that I wasn't doing anything wrong. After all, I wasn't the one married. I didn't make any vows. They were the ones stepping out on their wives, not me. If anything, I was helping them. Giving them something they weren't getting at home. That's what I told myself, anyway. But deep down, I knew it couldn't last forever. Deep down, I knew I was playing with fire. I'll never forget the day everything started to unravel. It was a sunny afternoon, and I was sitting at my favorite cafe, enjoying a coffee and scrolling through my phone. That's when Amma, the first wife, appeared. I didn't know who she was at first. She just sat down across from me, her eyes swollen from tears but filled with a kind of calm determination. "We need to talk," she said. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should get up and leave, or sit and face whatever was coming. "I know about you and my husband," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know everything." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. For the first time, I felt the weight of what I had done. This wasn't just a game anymore. This wasn't just fun and excitement. I had hurt someone. I had broken something that wasn't mine to break. But what shocked me the most was how calm she was. Amma didn't yell or scream. She didn't cause a scene. Instead, she told me about the nights she had spent waiting for her husband to come home, the lies he had told, and how their marriage was falling apart. She told me about their children, how they were starting to notice the tension between their parents. And then she looked at me and asked, "Why? Why?" The question hung in the air between us, and for the first time, I didn't have an answer. Amma wasn't the only one. After her, there were more. Somehow, the wives had found each other. Maybe they had always known about one another, or maybe they had formed their alliance after realizing their husbands all had the same mistress. Either way, they were no longer silent. Apia came next. She wasn't calm like Amma. Apia was angry, angrier than I had ever seen anyone. She stormed into my apartment one night, uninvited, shouting accusations and calling me every name in the book. "You've ruined my life," she screamed. "You've destroyed my family." I tried to defend myself, but there was nothing I could say that would make a difference. The truth was out. I had been careless, and now, I was paying the price. But the worst was yet to come. Of all the men I had been with, Kwame was the most dangerous. I didn't realize it at first. He was charming, just like the others. But beneath that charm was a darkness I hadn't anticipated. When I tried to end things with Kwame, he didn't take it well. He became possessive, controlling. He would show up unannounced, calling me at all hours of the night, demanding to know where I was and who I was with. I knew I had to get away from him, but I didn't know how. And then one day, it happened. I received a text message from an unknown number. It was a photo of Kwame and me. A private moment, captured without my knowledge. The message came with a threat: "Leave him, or this goes public." I panicked. I knew what that meant. Kwame had everything: photos, messages, proof of our affair. If he decided to release it, my life would be over. My family would disown me. My friends would abandon me. My job would be gone. Everything I had worked for would be destroyed. I tried to reason with him, but it was no use. Kwame wasn't like the others. He wasn't going to let me go easily. He wanted to make sure that if he couldn't have me, no one else could either. And then it happened. Kwame kept his word. The pictures were leaked, and within hours, my world came crashing down. I lost my job. My family, the look on their faces when they found out. My mother couldn't even look at me. My friends disappeared. My phone was flooded with messages, some offering sympathy, others condemning me. But the worst part was the silence. The isolation. The feeling of being completely and utterly alone. I had played with fire, and now I was burning. For weeks, I stayed hidden. I couldn't face the world. I couldn't face the people I had hurt. I had spent so long chasing excitement, chasing that feeling of being wanted and desired, that I had lost sight of everything else. I had lost sight of myself. In the quiet of my small apartment, with nothing but the sound of my own breathing to keep me company, I began to reflect on everything. How had I let it get this far? How had I allowed myself to become so blinded by the thrill that I didn't see the damage I was causing, not just to others, but to myself? The truth was, I was never really in control. I had fooled myself into thinking I had power, that I could play with other people's lives without consequence. But in the end, I was the one who got burned the most. I thought back to my younger self, the girl who had dreams of becoming a lawyer, who had wanted to change the world and make her family proud. Where had she gone? When had I lost her? It wasn't easy to face the truth. The truth that I had hurt innocent people. That I had destroyed marriages, families, and trust. And for what? A fleeting sense of excitement? The validation of men who were never mine to begin with. But the hardest truth to face was that I had done this to myself. I had made these choices. And now, I had to live with the consequences. I wish I could say that things got better quickly, that I picked myself up and everything went back to normal. But life doesn't work that way. The damage was done, and it would take a long time to rebuild. My reputation was in ruins, and there were some bridges I would never be able to mend. My family, bless them, eventually came around. My mother was the first to reach out. She didn't say much, just came to my apartment one day and sat with me in silence. That's when I broke down. All the pain, the regret, the shame, it came pouring out. I sobbed in her arms like a child, and for the first time in months, I felt a small glimmer of hope. I'm here, Akua, she whispered, stroking my hair. I'm here. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a start. Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild my life. I cut ties with the married men. I had to. There was no going back. I started therapy to understand why I had made the choices I had, why I had sought validation in such destructive ways. I realized that a part of me had always felt empty, always felt like I wasn't enough. The attention from those men had filled a void, but it was a void that no one else could ever truly fill. The healing process was long, and there were many days when I wanted to give up. But I kept going, one step at a time. I focused on myself for the first time in years. I reconnected with old friends, friends who had distanced themselves when my life spiraled out of control. Some welcomed me back with open arms, others didn't. I understood. I had hurt people, and not everyone was willing to forgive. Eventually, I found a new job, though it wasn't easy. My past still haunted me, and there were whispers, side glances, and judgments. But I was determined not to let my mistakes define the rest of my life. And then, one day, something changed. I woke up and realized that the world hadn't ended. I was still here. I had survived the worst, and though I was scarred, I was also stronger. I had learned from my mistakes, and I was determined never to repeat them. I started to see life differently. I no longer craved the thrill of danger, the excitement of the forbidden. Instead, I sought peace, stability, and honesty. I knew I still had a long way to go, but I was on the right path. And that's when I met Kwesi. Kwesi wasn't like the others. He wasn't married, he wasn't looking for a fling, and he didn't make me feel like a secret. He saw me, truly saw me, for who I was, flaws and all. At first, I was hesitant. I had built walls around myself, afraid to let anyone in. But Kwesi was patient. He didn't push, didn't rush. He just stood by me, letting me heal in my own time. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't the kind of whirlwind romance I had once craved. But it was real. It was steady. It was healthy. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was enough. Looking back, I realize now that the trouble I went through was of my own making. I had chased after things that were never meant for me, had people who didn't deserve it, and lost myself in the process. But in losing myself, I also found something else, a deeper understanding of who I am, of what I want, and of the kind of life I want to live. I'm not proud of the choices I made, but I'm also not the same person I was. I've learned, I've grown, and I'm still growing. The road ahead isn't easy, and I know there will be more challenges. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm walking in the right direction. And that, to me, is more valuable than any thrill I ever chased. I hope you enjoyed the story. Share the moral lesson you've learned in the comments below, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more amazing tales. Thank you for watching.